The Chicago Bears traded up for Justin Fields.
Ooh.
They traded up with the New York Giants, I believe, and they snagged Justin Fields, who they hope is their franchise quarterback. The Bears have not had luck getting a franchise quarterback in recent history. They've went through Trubisky as of recently. They've went through Jay Cutler. They've went through Rex Grossman. I mean, their last franchise quarterback was Jim McMahon. You know, and he wasn't even a great NFL quarterback
we wouldn't call
in
Jay
terms
Cutler
of numbers.
Their franchise QB at a point. He played there for a while.
I think Jay Cutler's career is underrated, but I believe the Bears have never had a 3,000-yard passer. I could be mistaken.
What?
Andy Dalton is the first QB that they're going to have that has had that.
Jay Cutler's never thrown for
No,
350.
he has, but I mean like with the Bears.
Oh, okay. Wow, okay.
So they got Justin Fields, and do you think Justin Fields is going to be a franchise quarterback with the Chicago Bears? I mean, it seems like their franchise has been quarterback purgatory like a lot of other franchises in the NFL, but I think a lot of Bears fans right now are really excited because Fields might turn out to be that guy.
I think a lot of teams would have been excited with Fields. You know, I think NFL has some fascination over Justin Fields, you know, but it's really hard to look at. This was one of the spots where I didn't want him to go. I wanted him in Atlanta or Carolina or the Niners. I thought those would be the best spots for him and his talents. Chicago is just a dysfunction. Like you said, Nagy isn't really a good coach. He hasn't shown the ability to be a good coach, but they've traded up for him. And like we've talked about it earlier, Matt Nagy didn't want Mitch. It seems like the organization is in agreement that they wanted Fields. This was their guy, you know. So, and he has some bright spots to look at. Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson are out there. It's a horrible offensive line. They don't really have a real running back, but the receivers are okay, so that's something you can work with. But I think I would lean more towards him being a bust. You know, he has the talent. He has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, I believe. But my fanboy for Justin Fields, I can't, you know, I think he'll be more likely a bust because of the situation in Chicago and the revolving around it. It hasn't produced any great quarterback, and I don't think it has the ability to. And Matt Nagy hasn't shown the ability to make great quarterbacks. I mean, Mitch was a Pro Bowler, but then he fell off after that. So I would have to lean towards a bust.
The Bears have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. They had the 20th ranked offensive line. Cody Whitehair was great for them. Charles Leno Jr. is a pretty good tackle. But James Daniels, their starting guard, who's pretty solid, was almost injured for the entire year last year. He's coming back, so that's a good sign. Their weapons aren't bad. Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, you mentioned it. Cole Kmet is there too. And you mentioned they don't have a real running back, but I think they do. David Montgomery, I think, is a pretty good running back. And they're going to get Tariq Cohen back, who's a third down receiving back. So for me, this is tough because I think the offense, the weapons, the defense they have, it's not a horrible situation to be in. Obviously, their defense is one of the better ones in the league. I think they're going to drop down a little bit because they lost Kyle Fuller, but they do have Jalen Johnson still, who showed a lot of flashes as a rookie. But I just think they're still dysfunctional because of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. Ryan Pace is a different story. I think right now, in his time as a GM, he's been labeled the bad GM because of what he did when he drafted Trubisky over Watson and Mahomes. That will always stick with him. If you look at Ryan Pace's history in the draft, it has not been awful. But because of that one pick, it has basically rewritten everything good that he ever did. And now we view him in an entirely different lens. Matt Nagy, Andy Reid protege, was an OC there, was at Kansas City. So he knows about offensive football. Mitchell Trubisky, like you said, wasn't his guy. He came in after. Justin Fields is Ryan Pace's and Matt Nagy's guy. They traded up for him. They believe in him. They think he can be that guy. They don't think his mechanical issues and his inaccuracies are that big of a problem to coach, and they think they can coach it out of him. And I'm not saying they can or they can't, but it's still a wait and see. I think this pick has the potential to rewrite the entire narrative around Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. Because if Justin Fields pans out, we're now looking at Matt Nagy as a quarterback guru again. We're looking at him as a good offensive coach again. We're looking at Ryan Pace as, okay, maybe he's not that bad of a GM. He actually does make some good decisions. But for me, I just think they're under so much pressure because Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, if they have a losing season this upcoming season, they might be fired. And if they're fired 1 year after selecting Justin Fields, a new regime that comes in that might not like Justin Fields is going to come and probably not going to put him in the best situation to succeed. On top of the already underlying cap hell that they're in, I mean, it's going to be really hard to maximize Fields on his rookie contract. And on top of that, if the Bears have to win now, if Nagy and Pace are under pressure to win now, Fields may be asked to play sooner rather than later. Andy Dalton throws a couple interceptions, they're going to be calling for Justin Fields. So I think it's a lot for Justin Fields to handle, but I think he has a great work ethic. He has a great character. He's very humble. He's even-keeled. So I hope he is successful and he does turn around the Bears franchise because they have not had a good quarterback in forever. But for me, it just feels like I'm torn between how I feel about this pick. Because on one hand, I don't think the talent is that bad. He has a solidified number one receiver, but I don't trust the coaching staff and the top of the organization that much to say that, yes, he's going to be successful.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the coaching staff, it's the people at the top. I think if we had to judge all the QBs and where they got picked, Urban Meyer, he hasn't been proven, but I think a lot of us would pick him over Matt Nagy. Zach Wilson, part of me. I think Robert Saleh and Matt Nagy, I think you'd probably go Robert. I'd probably go Robert too. And then Mac Jones and Trey Lance, obviously, without a doubt, have a better situation. So, but not a lot of them are walking in with a number one. Allen Robinson, I think he's an elite receiver, one of the best in the league. So, you got that guy out there. So, it's not like you're going to be throwing to nothing out there like Jalen Hurts is going to be doing what he was doing when he played. You're throwing to a legit number one. You're throwing to a speedster in Darnell Mooney, a guy who can burn almost anybody in the league. So, that's good. You got third down backs. You got receiving backs. So, it's like, I hope, like you said, Andy Dalton throws 4 or 5 picks and then they throw. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they be patient with the process because, Fields has a lot of talent. But the question is, can Matt Nagy fix the mechanics of Justin Fields and turn him to a great quarterback? And it's going to be a wait-and-see process. But I think this is probably going to be like Lance, one of those situations where it's really boom or bust for both of them because these are guys with extreme potential, but guys who we just, had – we know needed a QB, needed a coach that could fix them, and Lance got the coach, and we don't know if Fields got that coach.
Yeah, and all it takes is one. All it takes is one pick to change the trajectory of your franchise. You look at the Chiefs. Before they drafted Mahomes, they never had great quarterbacks. I mean, they didn't have great quarterback for a very long time. They were stuck in no man's land, and Mahomes changed that. So all it takes is one guy to change the face of a franchise. We'll see if that's Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears. And it's a wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
But, I wish the best for Bears fans and for Justin Fields, and hopefully he is successful in Chicago.